This is not a review of SMSL's VMV P2 and, as they say, high-resolution desktop headphone amp. It's not a review because I don't have one here. What happened is APOS Audio posted about this amp on HeadFi. And as like other people, I took a look at what the specifications were, and I found some things that were very interesting. So as people tend to ask me about new products, I thought I'd do a commentary video about the things I saw because, well, yeah, this is getting pretty interesting. Now, as a disclaimer, APOS Audio sends me gear in for review. Actually, they've just sent me something for review. Actually, just out of view, there's a Topping D70 Pro, which I'm going to post a review of. Now, in those reviews, I post an affiliate link to APOS Audio, so if people buy through that link and don't return the product, then I get a bit of a kickback. Now, I don't think that this commentary is going to be doing anyone any favors or is going to encourage anyone to buy one, and that's not the purpose. But just in case you do decide to buy one anyway, I will leave an affiliate link. And if you do buy one through that link and don't return it, then I'll get a bit of a kickback. But anyway, enough of that. Let's actually talk about this. And to that, I'm just going to go through the APOS Audio site and the information provided about the amp. So here is APOS's site, and here we have the VMV P2 High Precision Desktop Amp. And at $999, well, that's actually getting into some serious territory for this Chinese manufacturer. Well, basically close to $1,000. And that's putting it up, getting close to my new Shit Audio Mjolnir. So yeah, well, to start with, let's have a look at the front. The style, well, at least I have to give credit to the Chinese manufacturers for attempting original style rather than copying other companies, which is, yeah, okay. Yeah, jokes aside, it does look pretty stylish. So it's got some kind of at least interesting design. It's got 3 headphone jacks on the front, obviously 4-pin XLR, 6.3mm and 4.4mm Pentacon. And looks like it's got a power switch and a light and a volume control. So far, so good. And more clicky stuff with the usual high-res audio mark. And here's where things start to get a little bit interesting. So we've got high power output, and of course their serial noise ratio of 133 dB and total harmonic distortion. They've got their 4 zeros past the decimal point there, but as we'll see later, this is a bit of a deception. And here's where it kind of gets puzzling. 99 chip low noise op amp. Classic toggle switch. Preamp output is fine. New appearance design, well, we saw that. And yeah, a couple of them. The 99 chip low noise op amp and classic toggle switch. Well, okay, let's get in there. So to start with, okay, so we have up to 12 watts of output, which is pretty substantial. Now this is obviously not going to be Class A. It's going to be Class AB of some description, especially with all those op amps. And so, but maybe this is going to be obviously plenty of power for things like your good old Dan Clark Audio, Stealth and Expanse, and maybe probably even get into the good old Hi-Fi Man HE6 and Susvaras. So it looks like it's got a lot of power. But here's where things get interesting. So these are your classic toggle switches, and it says this later in the images. Look at this. Here we have obviously the XLR and RCA input switch, the headphone amplifier or preamplifier switch, and the low, mid, and high gain. But where are they located? On the back. And this looks like it's a render and not an actual picture, and they may not even be like finger toggle switches. They look like they may be recessed or flush, which means that you need something like the end of a pen or similar to switch them. So imagine you've got this in a rack and you decide to change the gain. You've got to pull this out of the rack and find something small enough to switch these. Now maybe they protrude, maybe they don't, but classic toggle switches, it looks like some poor person in marketing had to sell this stupid idea. I mean, seriously? These switches are on the back? I mean, it would have been better if they'd done what Songcos did and had that awful menu system and used something like that, than put them in tiny toggle switches on the back of the amp. And this is where this is probably the most, yeah, okay, people give crap to Shit Audio for having their power switch on the back, but most stuff does, really. But seriously? All the other controls other than the volume on the back? Yeah, no. What were they thinking? What were they smoking? We'll skip past the ultra compact design. Now let's have a look at the two. This has a couple of the big WTF things in here. So a total of 99 low noise op amps are used in parallel. Why? Now, for the uninitiated, an op amp is basically an entire amplification circuit on a chip. So it basically has, it's going to be dual channel at least. So it has 8 pins, it has a voltage inputs, voltage in, voltage out, and it has, the signal in and out like you would on a transistor, but it actually goes into a circuit which has a whole bunch of transistors depending on the design. And they've obviously covered them over here so that you can't see what model they are, but I'll bet they're something basic like any 5532s or something like that. They're not going to be anything particularly special, I am sure. Now, why would you use a whole bunch of op amps? Now, op amps are extremely limited in how much power they can output and how they're used and all that kind of thing. And so why wouldn't you just do something like, again, like the Mjolnir with a whole, 32 or is it 36 transistors? Why wouldn't you just build a normal amplifier circuit? Oh, the answer is, of course, this is SMSL. They want the lowest, the best synad possible. That's the reason why, because they can get better synad with paralleled op amps. And of course, they can be set up with a huge amount of negative feedback, which will reduce the synad numbers even further. Doesn't matter if the sound ends up sounding completely flat. That's what will happen. So that's why 99 low noise op amps. That's just so comically ridiculous. 99. Oh my god, this is just this funny. Now the best part is specially designed volume potentiometer greatly reduces channel deviation. Let me explain about potentiometers. There are two basic models which are used in, I think, almost all amps these days, and one of them is the Alps Blue, and one of them is the Alps Green. And you want to know which one's the cheapest? The Alps Green. Now you can go to Alps and request a whole bunch which are good quality, or you can buy a huge quantity of them from Alps and then measure them and check check out the ones which have excessive deviation. This is not a high-end pot. It is the cheapest balanced pot they could get to stick in there. And so, okay, now I could say, okay, my Mjolnir has an Alps Blue, which isn't the most amazing pot out there, and you could argue, yeah, for some of that kind of, for whatever it is, at $1,200 or whatever, they should have, a better potentiometer than the Alps Blue, but it does fine. I mean, which I'll talk about in my review. But this is a tiny, cheapest balanced pot they could get. Okay. Well, other than stupidly cheap ones from China, which would have such channel imbalance, which would be embarrassing. Obviously, given the measurements, it probably doesn't, unless, well, we never know. They probably took at least some care to not have a crappy volume pots in the actual production ones. You'd hope. Especially at $999. Excellent parametric data with the meaningless marketing crap. High quality relays. Okay, that's just normal in everything nowadays, is that you can get high quality relays. And things like DC overvoltage and overload protection, yeah, great. You absolutely should have that in amps nowadays. And various manufacturers have been taken to task for the amps that have blown up people's headphones, so this is a good thing. Built-in high efficiency and low noise power supply system. Now, do you remember my topping review, which pissed off a lot of people? And what is this? Well, if you look on the back of the amp, it says 100 to 240 volts. You know what it is? It's a couple of switching power supplies again. And so for your $999, that's a $1,000 amp, you are getting a couple more switching power supplies. That is things that you use in wall warts. Now, obviously, I assume that they have at least done something better than chucking. Well, usually what they were doing is chucking in a couple of Meanwell power supplies, as everyone else does, which are cost, $10, $12 Meanwell power supplies. Right. For a $999 amp, well, it doesn't say what they are. I mean, it's given a number there which doesn't show up anywhere online. So unless you pop one open and find, maybe they put 4 Meanwell power supplies in there and paired 2 up and called it their own thing. I just don't know. We sometimes, we've seen manufacturers, chuck a couple of whatever in a box and call it something special, something generic, and rename it as something special. Custom power supply designed by SMSL. It's going to be a switching power supply with maybe a couple of changes. Fantastic. No, I mean, you can get, a $109 Magni with a AC wall wart, which is not a switching power supply. Now here, of course, you've got your dynamic range and all your fancy numbers. Now here's where it gets interesting. They talk about they've got their magic 4 zeros in here. Look, you've got 4 zeros and 69, 4 zeros and 68, 123 dB. Now, what's the thing to note? Now, if you've watched Golden Sounds videos, which I highly recommend you doing, you will notice an obvious thing here, which is the output voltage is 4.9 volts, or almost 5 volts, basically. That is where the AP5555 is most optimum in measuring, so you can get the best SINAD numbers. So they have optimized this design, with the 99 op amps to give the best SINAD possible. It's just, SINAD pissing contest, as usual. And this doesn't actually say whether it's measured on the preamp outputs, which it probably is, or the headphone outputs. It doesn't say anything. Well, probably, actually, given that you see now, and this you'll see in the topping, my topping review, they have the option of a 5 volt, 4 volt output on the XLR, or 5 volts. And the reason they have that 5 volt option is not for any special equipment. It's so that you can get the best measurements when you run it through the APX555. So, it's basically aimed to get that. Now, here's the thing. Here's where they get their 4 zeros from. Look down here, we've got 0001, and below that, their 4 zeros and 69 is just down at just over 2 watts. So remember, if you put 2 watts, looks like it's 2 point, well, more, not quite 2.5 watts into your headphones, 2.5 watts, which is enough to destroy some headphones and will totally destroy your hearing. I don't know if the output decibels be like 130 dB or something. Then you will get your super magical 4 zeros and 69 total harmonic distortion. Now, if they were honest, and this is obviously going to only be at 1 kilohertz, because that's all they do. They don't do across the entire range, because otherwise the number would be higher. They would be honest and look up at this number and they would say distortion better than 0.02%, which is the correct measurement. So if we actually look at headphone, what you probably typically use in a pair of headphones maybe would be somewhere around half a watt, maybe, or a bit higher, something like that. At maximum, you'll be looking at still 0.02% distortion, or a bit better, 1 to 2. And that's still fantastic. I mean, even better than 0.02 is fine. And so this is yet more another SINAD pissing contest. Look, you can spend a lot more money to have to be able to piss on your friends and say, look, I can get 4 zeros in my, or I have an amp with 4 zeros in my SINAD measurement. And this is at 33 ohms, which doesn't show the other measurements, but at least the channel matching looks perfect, assuming that they so again, that's 33 ohm load, so we have to assume that it is headphones. Frequency response, meaningless. Interesting thing is, oh no, they go up to 100 kilohertz. That's pretty cool. Not that you would care about that. Tempered glass, but classic retro toggle switches. That's where I told you about that. Classic retro toggle switches. So you are trying to sell people an absolute nuisance. They're not retro, they're modern. They're dip switches, and they're classic retro computer style dip switches. No, that's not what you want. You may as well, let's make it more, what they should do is not put the switches on the back, but put them on the bottom, just to make it a little bit harder for people to get to them. Really, I mean, on the back? Still, high quality knobs. No, I'm not going to make that joke. So again, there we have that AC voltage, 100 to 240 volts. Someone missed a zero. So yeah, $999. Oh god, for 99 op amps. Oh my god. What? Hold on. Wait a sec. I gotta go back. This is just. Wait a sec. How many op amps did they say there were? Let's just go to the beginning. It said, I get it, 99 chip low noise op amp. Why 99? That's not even an even number. Is that like there's one gain stage and then 99 and 98 chips? It's like that doesn't make any sense. That's just bizarre. So this is the most bizarre release ever. It's like, it reminds me when I bought, you buy cheap, plug-in speakers which use the 3.5mm jack to give you sound on your computer, and they said, dynamic stereo sound. It's just, yeah. Oh dear. Now, I mean, this could be a good amp. I'm sure it drives headphones fine. I'm sure that it works fine. I'm sure that it's a decent, but yeah, $999 for 99 op amps is just as, and having to switch the gain on the back and switch preamp mode on the back. Oh god, this is just funny. It's just comical. So this is again not a review. And if you really, really want me to review one of these, I'll ask APOS Audio, but it's not going to get it. It's not going to be, I don't think it will even reach 4 stars just for the nuisance level of the design. And yeah, let's get switching power supplies in our $1,000 amp. Yeah, right. So okay, that was maybe a little bit of fun. And if APOS guys are watching this, apologies. Well, maybe maybe someone will buy one anyway. If you anyone want to spend the $999 to try one out, please do. Use the link in the description and then tell us how it goes. It would be really cool. I mean, if it turns out to be a really great amp, apart from the very bizarre design choices, that'd be fine. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if it could actually resolve as well as something. I don't think it's going to beat my Mjolnir. I just don't see that happening. I mean, well, to give you a preview of the Mjolnir review, it's competing against a $4,000 amp, which I've had here for ages and is my top amp. And yeah, that's what we're talking about. So anyway, I hope this was entertaining a little bit, and thanks for watching, and thanks for all my patrons for supporting me. If you do like to become a patron, the link is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you online.